all very welcome to this new series of Trad Connections from Siamsa Tíre, and we are joined by three musicians with a long-standing relationship with Siamsa. Mike O'Shea, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Joanne.
And Nicky McAuliffe. So I thought we might start by going back and chatting a bit about, I know Anne was the first into Siamsa, so you all followed her in really. She was the trailblazer. And just to talk a little bit about when you first played as part of the band in Siamsa, and then maybe some touring, which would have been very exciting way back then. Would anyone like to? Mike?
Yeah, why not? I suppose my link with Siamsa goes back to pre-Siamsa days when I first met Pat Ahern, I suppose, back in 1958, would you believe?
Wow.
His first job when he came to Tralee was to form a choir for St. John's Church.
Yes.
And,
which you now look after, isn't that right?
Yeah, for my sins, yeah.
Indeed. Offer it up, Mike.
So, 1957, he arrived in Tralee. I was too young to join the choir in those days, so in 1958 I went down for my first audition.
And where did that happen?
In the CBS school in Edward Street at that time.
Yes, yeah.
And I was, for one reason or another, I was picked as a boy soprano, and I'm here since.
You're stuck since.
Yeah. So out of the choir kind of evolved a little. We used to do little sketches and scenes, and a few of us, and we travelled around the county with now and again and did little bits of shows here and there. Yeah. And as I said, I was the pre-Siamsa days.
Yes.
But out of that eventually came Siamsa.
Yeah, exactly.
It evolved. And
you started as a musician, as well as being a singer with Siamsa as well?
Yeah. Back in Siamsa Nuriakta kind of started in around 1964, I'd say. Nicky might correct me.
Yeah, Nicky's the man for the dates.
Yeah. And Pat Ahern was looking for someone to play the bones in the show. Okay. So he sent me up to a man in Tralee, Christy O'Shea. He'd be father of Johnny Shea, Johnny the comedian, Lord to mercy him, he died there some months back. Christy was blind and he was a bones player, so Pat sent me up to Walpole Lane here in Tralee to learn the bones from Christy. Okay. And I used to play a little bit of tin whistle in the boys' band in primary school.
Yeah.
With Brother Healy. And
I think we all started with the tin whistle in primary school, didn't we?
And I learned the fiddle for a while with Micheál O'Doone and Mickey Dunn for 4 or 5 years. But and then I picked up this thing, the guitar, in my rock and roll days.
Great, thanks, Mike. Nicky, do you want to tell us about your first sojourn into Siamsa Tíre?
Oh, well, I came into Siamsa Tíre, I suppose, because I knew somebody in the band already, you know.
Somebody in particular?
Yes, and I joined the band for the summer season in 1970.
Okay.
Now, Michael had been in the band already for a show up in the Ash earlier in the spring, a special show, and he was brought onto stage because he was a good dancer and singer and all that. And,
an all-rounder.
I was brought into the band. So then we had, up to then, there were just two people in the band, the piano and the accordion.
And
the whistle as well, dubbing and accordion whistle. Okay. So I was brought down and in playing a flute, I think, in 1970. Okay. So there I started in 1970 for the summer season.
We are now going to be joined by another set of Siamsa musicians, Maura Walsh, Greta Curtin and Timmy Flaherty. Nicky, you were telling me about the first tour, which happened in...
Oh, the first tour. The first tour happened in 50 years actually, next September, 26th of September.
I knew you'd have the date.
We got an invitation to Weilheim in
Yes.
Germany, which was a great treat, of course. Some people hadn't been in aeroplanes before.
Yes.
And also, I suppose had to get used to a new currency.
Okay,
In those
of course,
days,
yeah.
and we set off on the 26th of September from Dublin Airport.
And why Germany? How did you end up in Germany? What was the reason for that tour?
Father Pat had a good friend, Father Dermot McCarthy, and he was stationed in Athy, County Kildare, and one of his parishioners was a lady called Countess Podeville.
Okay.
And she was wife of a German minister, in the German government.
Okay.
And they had came to Tralee and saw the show, and she was completely taken with it.
Lovely.
And she said, we'll have to get us to Germany.
Very good.
And that's how it happened.
Okay. And how long were you there for, Nicky?
We were just there from Sunday to Sunday.
Okay.
And something else, I suppose, another milestone happened on the 26th of September, and on the same day we flew out as Offaly won the All-Ireland football final.
Okay.
First time ever.
Okay.
Willie Bryan was the captain, first man to bring the Summerground to Offaly. So that happened. And something else happened when we came back on the following Sunday. I suppose another milestone. There's news had come through. We got here to the airport. The great Sean O'Reilly had just died in a hospital in London.
Oh, wow.
So there was 3 milestones in the week.
Dates that you'd remember, not that you wouldn't remember them. Okay. And other tours then besides that, you mentioned a tour to London. Was it London as well?
1973, there was a big tour in a theatre in London.
Finsbury Park, wasn't it?
Finsbury Park, the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park, and I'm not sure who organised it.
Yeah.
But
The West Kerry Association, I think,
Right.
because they were with us, a group from West Kerry, a football team, and the whole
very good.
entourage came with us,
cool.
So
for
we
the
were,
weekend.
we were playing to 2,200 people when there was, Mike can describe it there was a bomb scare.
Yeah, Father Michael Doherty, Mickey Doc, as we used to call him.
Yes.
He was one of the organisers of the trip. And the theatre was packed the same night, about 2,200 people. And the Sean Ahern was in the middle of his beautiful piece, Roisin Dubh. And all of a sudden we heard over the PA system, 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But what we hadn't realised was this was a signal for the cast, the staff of the theatre.
Okay.
If they were half expecting a bomb scare.
Wow.
It had been threatened, all right, but they didn't think it would happen. But the call came through that there was a bomb planted in the theatre. So this was the signal for them to evacuate the theatre.
3 blind mice was the sign to run. Wow.
So Father Dermot McCarthy came out and addressed the audience, and everyone left in the space of maybe 30 seconds or so. The theatre was emptied and evacuated.
Yeah.
And Bishop Eamon Casey was with us the same night.
Okay.
Because he organised it. He was one of the organisers of the trip.
Yes.
And once they checked out the theatre, and once everything was safe and well, we all came back in and continued on with Roisin Dubh.
Oh, you did?
And there was a fabulous atmosphere.
I'm sure.
After,
Yeah, lovely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a lovely memory.
And America, I suppose, was another big one as well.
Yeah, we had several trips to America, to 76 and 82, I think.
Yeah, they were the big ones. There was
Yeah.
another one as well later on the time, just a smaller group.
Yeah.
76 was the big one.
And was that was when you performed on Broadway, wasn't it?
Yes, that was...
Palace Theatre, yeah.
Yes, that was a big one.
Yeah, there's lots of photographs of that around as well. It's kind of an iconic trip
It was.
to go to America, I suppose. It was
Fabulous,
a big
yeah.
deal, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And to play on Broadway then was
Indeed.
something special.
Not something everybody can say, you know. No.
And these were the bones that opened the show every night.
Oh my God.
Yes, used to come out for about 50, 30 seconds of an intro, musical intro.
Okay.
I used to step out in front of the curtain just to black out and and into the tune.
Wow. Fab.
And that was the opening of the show every night
Great.
in Broadway.
Lovely. So next we're going to have a set of hornpipes. us, I'd love to talk to you a bit about teaching music and passing it on. I suppose you'd be very well known as someone who knows all the tunes, has all the information.
Oh.
But yeah, you're still.
They believe all this, you know. They believe
I know,
all this.
I know.
They
I'd
believe
say
all
you're
this.
making it all up, are you?
Making it all up.
Yeah. Who's going to argue with you? Is right.
Shawnee Mahoney taught me well.
Yeah, he did indeed.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so just the teaching side of things for both yourself and Anne, I suppose you're both teachers of music and what that means, and do you still love it as much as you did in the
Yes,
past?
it's interesting all the time. I started back in 1970, and that time there was a scheme came in under County Kerry VC, under the night classes scheme to teach traditional music. I happened to be around, and I was asked to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And 51 years later, I'm still doing it. you
Yeah,
know.
teaching.
And it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just music, I would argue, that you teach as well. You teach do you teach the students the history of the tunes and all? Are they interested in all that, do you think, now,
Some
students?
would, yes,
Yeah.
some would. And nowadays there's an opening for that because they do exams through Colta Scioltorieren.
Okay.
They do exams up in, you can do music degrees up in Limerick.
Yes.
And a lot, like classical music, a lot of the history of the
Yes.
music is required now.
Yeah, it's a big part of
maybe
it.
composers, like the classical field, where the composer maybe comes first, and then the piece,
Yeah.
and the history.
Yeah.
So that is coming in.
Yeah.
And I suppose like Sean O'Reilly kind of started that thing, and I think Micheál O'Sullivan brought it on a higher level,
Absolutely.
into UL, which
Yeah,
is a good thing.
It is, absolutely.
And because in the old days, a lot of the people played the music,
Yeah.
and they didn't know where the tunes came from,
Indeed.
and they didn't need to know either.
Yeah, and when you go to gigs now, it's something that musicians are doing a lot more.
Yes.
They're talking about the
Exactly,
tunes and the music.
you also with CDs now as well. In the old days, you had LPs and records, and just the name was put on.
Yes.
Mike O'Shea's favourite for real grand.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you have a little booklet with the CDs, and there's a lot of information on all the pieces.
Yes.
And that was something I was always getting phone calls about as well down the years, as well. So
And do you archive music at home, Nicky? Like, is your house full of?
I have we have a few books on music, all right, and a lot of tapes as well.
library.
A library, I'd say.
Yeah, we have a few, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're teaching now, Nicky, is it fiddle that you teach?
Well, I'd have whistles as well.
Okay.
Maybe an accordions. Yeah, that'd be a couple of instruments. Yeah, that'd be accordion, whistle, and maybe the odd flute. And
Any pipers? No.
not really. The school. I leave that to Padraig Buckley in Killarney.
Okay, very good. Lovely. Thank you. So we might just talk to you, Anne, a little bit about teaching music in Siamsa Tíre and Siamsa Tíre.
It was Father Helen kind of convinced me that I could teach music first. Like,
Really?
he needed a teacher to go to Corrig.
I like how you use
Corrig.
the word convinced.
And I said, oh God, I couldn't
Good
do that
choice.
stuff.
I know.
What year was that, Nicky? 75.
Because playing music and teaching music are two very different things.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That was 1975.
Yes.
The year I got married. I had to leave my permanent pensionable job in Kerry County Council, where I worked with your mother.
That's right. Great stories, Anne. I've great stories. That's right, you did.
So I started teaching music then, and that was one of the first. That was the first class I had at in Siamsa in Corrig.
Yeah. And was it flute, tin whistle you always taught
Tin
Anne?
whistle, mostly tin whistle then.
Yeah.
And accordion.
And accordion.
Yeah. There weren't many concertinas around then. There were hardly any concertinas, really.
Really, yeah. Yeah. And did you teach in both Vanug and Corrig?
I did, yeah.
We are delighted to be joined now by the next generation of Siamsa musicians. They're going to play a set of jigs with Anne and Nicky and Mike. These musicians are currently part of our training academy and will go on to perform with the National Folk Theatre at Siamsa in the future. On fiddle, we have Nancy O'Connor. We have sisters Emma and Grace Heffernan and Peter Doyle. to where the music came from for all of you. You know, like in your family, was there musicians in your family, or do you remember, Nicky, the first time you played music? The very first time you picked up an instrument.
I picked up an instrument at home.
Yeah.
An old melodeon.
Okay.
Belonged to my father, and we were pulling Fána Ganalea, the famous Fána Ganalea out of it and all that.
Yeah.
And then in school, I think we got on to tin whistles. Fána Ganalea again, you know, and there it started in the mid-50s out in Lochfooder School with Inini Cruhur.
And after that, like, what age were you when you started playing the fiddle?
I started playing the fiddle. I got a fiddle from a neighbour again, and it had to be strung up and all that. That was 60 years this year, 1961, and that was the when I started playing the fiddle.
And did you love the fiddle when you picked it up first, or were you like unsure?
Well,
some people say that they have.
Well, it was a different ball game. Of course, it was dealing with strings, and you couldn't see the holes, or couldn't like a whistle. You couldn't see your notes, so you had to feel for the notes, and your ear had to play an important part. But we came around it. I think Maggie in the Wood was the first tune I tried out on the fiddle, and we got it out some way.
Yeah, very good.
They took it away from there.
And do you play other instruments, Nicky, besides fiddle?
Well, I played the flute afterwards. I took up the flute a few years after, and mostly the whistle and the flute and the fiddle. Okay. Would get out a tune and the accordion, all right.
Yeah. I'd say you'd be fairly handy at it. You're being modest. What about you, Mike? Was there a lot of music in your family?
My dad used to play the accordion.
Yeah, because you come from a very musical family.
You're a crowd of chances, really, but the truth be told. My uncle Gerard, who lived in England for a lot of his life, he played the accordion as well.
Lovely.
On my mum's side, then, she was a nice singer herself, and her brother, Jerry Griffin, had a tin whistle band in town.
A tin whistle band?
Yeah, tin whistle. They lived in Rock Street.
Oh, right.
And I was part of...
I'm part Rocky myself.
You'd have been in it? You've been born with it.
Would they have had me, I wonder?
I'd have got you.
Thanks, Mike.
So I was part of that band then as well, for tin whistle band.
Yeah.
And as I say, learned to whistle the boys' school then, you know, tin whistle band there as well. Yeah. And learned the fiddle then, as I say, from Nicky Dunn.
Great. What about you, Anne?
The tin whistle, much like Nicky, really, when I went to school first, our teacher taught us the tin whistle. That was Clan Douglas lick snare.
Oh, yeah.
And my father played the fiddle then.
Okay.
So there was always a fiddle in the house.
Yeah.
And then we had lots of local musicians coming in, and one man had an accordion, and I loved the accordion. So I used to leave it there from one end of the week to the other.
Oh, brilliant.
For some reason, I can't remember why. And I used to be trying it out.
Yeah.
When it was there, so I got an accordion then good few years later.
Yeah. And when you were learning music, the two of you, I have an awful habit when I did play the tin whistle of just learning it by ear.
Oh yeah, it was all by ear, Even though my father taught us to read the music.
Did he?
Yeah. He knew how to read the music.
Yeah. Because I don't think, I could be wrong, and correct me if I am, but a lot of traditional musicians just learn by ear.
By ear,
Yeah.
A lot of the old musicians never read music.
Yeah. Lovely. And Nicky, if you hadn't have been a musician, what would you have been?
I had a great love of, and I still have, and we still keep away with woodwork.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still keep in touch with it.
Yeah.
And that would be the one thing I wanted to be. I always wanted to be a carpenter when I was young.
Yeah.
You know.
But the music took over.
Music took over.
Yeah. Lovely. And now we're going to finish up tonight's Trad Connections with a set of reels from Mike, Nicky, Anne, Greta, Timmy, agus Maura.